General Hospital will reveal exciting events for the next 2 weeks from April 7th to 18th, 2024. First, Ava sees the chaos as a strategic opportunity, weaving together the fragments of her conversation with Rick into a calculated plan. Now that she knew Christina had tampered with the brakes, intentionally or not, Ava saw a powerful leverage point forming. With Rick confirming Christina's presence near the scene of the crash and her own knowledge of the parking habits involved, Ava constructed a compelling narrative. Christina meant to target her, but Rick's car had taken the brunt. Rather than confront Christina outright, Ava opted for a more manipulative approach. She intended to keep this revelation in her back pocket, a silent threat to keep Christina in line and remind her who truly held the upper hand. Meanwhile, Willow found herself increasingly unsettled by the strange energy circulating around Sunny's inner circle. Michael had been distant, guarded, and unwilling to explain certain decisions, and the warmth that once united their family seemed to be slowly eroding. Though no concrete proof presented itself, Willow felt the tension building and suspected something more dangerous was brewing beneath the surface. She couldn't ignore the sensation that secrets were being kept from her, secrets that, if uncovered, could change the course of her life yet again. Lucky, torn between duty and loyalty, found himself in a moral bind as he chose to protect Christina rather than report the truth. The evidence pointed clearly toward her involvement in the sabotage, but a sense of compassion, and perhaps guilt, held him back. His decision to shield her forced him to lie to Elizabeth, a woman whose trust he cherished. The deception weighed heavily on him, each word of denial driving a wedge deeper into their fragile relationship. Though Lucky tried to justify his actions, the internal conflict continued to eat away at him. Sunny, on the other hand, was in no mood for patience or restraint. Upon receiving infuriating news, details he had suspected but hoped weren't true, he felt the walls begin to close in. Someone close to him had betrayed his trust, and Sunny was done playing defense. The time for strategy had ended, now came the time for retaliation. Fueled by anger and sharpened instincts, Sunny prepared to strike back with the full force of a man who had survived countless threats, and this time, he wouldn't wait for the storm to come. He would become the storm. Second, Ava, armed with damning knowledge about Christina's involvement in the car sabotage, now held the power to destroy not only Christina's freedom but also the fragile bond she shared with Molly. By exposing Christina's crime, Ava could easily have her arrested and prosecuted, tarnishing her name and reputation in the process. The threat hovered like a storm cloud, and Ava, ever the strategist, had no intention of letting such leverage go to waste. She would use it to bend Christina to her will, a weapon sharpened not by malice alone but by opportunity and control. As tensions rose, Ava confronted Christina with cold calculation, laying out the full weight of what she knew. She didn't scream or accuse, she simply offered a choice, laced with a thinly veiled threat. Either Christina complied with her demand, or Ava would let the truth surface, dragging her into scandal and possibly prison. Ava's demand wasn't vague, it came in the form of blackmail, her price set not in favors, but in cash. With Christina's back against the wall, Ava smiled quietly, fully aware of how completely she had cornered her target. Desperate and humiliated, Christina realized she had no other option but to turn to Sunny. It was a gut-wrenching decision, one that forced her to reveal her mistake and beg for his help. She needed Sunny not only to protect her but to pay whatever sum Ava demanded to keep the secret buried. The stakes were too high, Ava's hold on her could ripple through every corner of her life, especially her already delicate relationship with Molly. Christina wasn't just asking for money, she was pleading for a chance to hold on to the life she was trying to rebuild. In her heart, Christina knew this might be the only path forward. If Sunny agreed to pay, perhaps Ava would back off, and Christina could begin to make amends with Molly before it was too late. The shame burned deep, but the fear of losing everything was stronger. As she waited for Sunny's decision, the silence around her felt suffocating. In that moment, she wasn't just a woman seeking forgiveness, she was a sister, a daughter, a mother-to-be, fighting for the chance to escape the shadow of her own mistake. Third, however, that wasn't the only shock Sunny had to face. As the chaos around Christina escalated, another revelation crept into his world, this time involving Natalia. A quiet but deeply personal piece of her past came to light, one she had tried to keep hidden. When Sunny received word that Natalia had once been married to Jens Sidwell, a man with a shadowy and controversial reputation, he was blindsided. It wasn't just the fact of the marriage that stung, it was Natalia's silence. The secrecy felt like betrayal, especially in a time when trust was wearing thin in Sunny's life. Natalia, knowing she could no longer run from the truth, finally decided to confess. With measured words and visible regret, she admitted that Jens Sidwell wasn't just a name from the past, he was her ex-husband. The confession shattered any illusion of total honesty between her and Sunny. For a man who valued loyalty above all, the idea that Natalia had kept this from him felt like a deep personal offense. His first reaction was anger, sharp and instinctive, fueled by the fear that Natalia might be hiding even more. Had she lied to protect him, or was she protecting herself? Despite his fury, something within Sunny softened as Natalia shared more about her marriage. Her voice trembled as she recounted the psychological toll of being with Sidwell, a man who twisted love into control, and whose abuse slowly erased her sense of self. Sunny began to see the layers of pain beneath her silence. This wasn't about deception for gain, but rather a woman trying to bury a chapter of her life too painful to relive. In that moment, Sunny's empathy overpowered his suspicion, and he recognized the courage it took for Natalia to face her past. Though Sidwell continued to paint Natalia as the villain who destroyed their family, the truth was far more complicated. His manipulation, his cruelty behind closed doors, had been the true source of the fracture. Natalia had escaped, but not without scars. And now, those scars were threatening to bleed into her present. For Sunny, the revelation was sobering. He could no longer see Natalia through the lens of betrayal, but instead as a survivor, carrying wounds he had never fully understood. Whether this truth would strengthen or sever their bond remained uncertain, but one thing was clear, the past had found its way into the present, demanding to be reckoned with. Fourth, for Trina and Kai, the upcoming nurses' ball presented both a challenge and a rare opportunity. Though initially unsure of how their styles might blend, they soon discovered a shared rhythm and artistic vision that brought their talents into perfect harmony. As rehearsals progressed, the pair crafted a performance that not only showcased their individual strengths but also captured the spirit of unity and celebration that the event symbolized. The collaboration sparked creative energy between them, and for the first time in weeks, Trina felt like she was truly doing something for herself, something joyful, something bold. Meanwhile, in a far more heated corner of Port Charles, Lulu and Dante found themselves caught in an emotional crossfire. What started as a disagreement quickly escalated into a raw confrontation filled with long-suppressed feelings. Old wounds reopened, and beneath the fury, love lingered like a shadow neither of them could ignore. In a moment of unfiltered truth, Lulu let it slip, she still loved Dante. The words came out not as a confession, but as a cry, one that stunned them both into silence. For Dante, the declaration reopened a door he thought had been permanently sealed. Whether it would lead to reconciliation or deeper heartbreak was yet to be seen. Elsewhere, Jack Brennan issued a somber warning regarding Anna's safety. Though she had successfully orchestrated Valentine's rescue, whispers of discontent were growing among those who questioned her methods. Jack sensed the danger forming in the shadows and worried that Anna might be underestimating her enemies. The backlash wasn't just about protocol, it was personal, and Anna was becoming a target. Still, rather than retreat, Anna refocused her energy on something even more unsettling, Emma. She suspected her daughter had been hiding something ever since signing an NDA tied to a troubling incident at her university. Determined to uncover the truth, Anna dove headfirst into a quiet but persistent investigation. Though Emma insisted she was fine, her guarded responses and the secrecy surrounding the university's internal affairs told Anna otherwise. The maternal instinct that had carried Anna through years of espionage now drove her to protect her daughter from dangers both seen and unseen. The deeper she dug, the more she feared that Emma had witnessed something criminal, and perhaps traumatic. With every step closer to the truth, Anna felt the pull between her duty as a mother and her role as a seasoned investigator intensify, knowing that this time, the stakes were deeply personal. Fifth, across town, Jens Sidwell moved quietly but strategically, extending a tempting job offer to someone whose allegiance could tilt the balance of control in Port Charles. His motivations, veiled behind professional language and polished charm, hinted at a deeper agenda. Sidwell wasn't just hiring, he was recruiting, seeking influence in key places, and building leverage in subtle, calculated moves. Meanwhile, Tracy, always a sentinel of the Quartermain legacy, sensed trouble brewing and issued a stern warning. Her instincts rarely failed her, and this time, she suspected that lines were being crossed beneath the surface of corporate maneuvering. At the same time, Nina attempted a softer approach, offering Willow some heartfelt advice. Though her intentions may have been sincere, the history between them made the moment feel strained. When Nina's words veered toward Drew, hinting at possible concerns or casting doubt, Willow instinctively recoiled. Her loyalty to Drew, and her desire to protect the fragile peace she had rebuilt, made her resistant to any critique involving him. Yet despite her best efforts, a flicker of doubt lodged itself in her thoughts. The more Nina spoke, the harder it became for Willow to ignore the uneasy feeling growing inside her. That unease grew when Willow found herself caught in a moment she wasn't meant to witness. Passing by quietly, she overheard Sasha speaking in low, cautious tones with Danny. The subject seemed innocuous at first, but Willow's ears caught something, a hesitation, a name, a timeline, that didn't sit right. Something in their words hinted at a lie, and it centered around paternity. A cold realization began to dawn: could Jason be the real father of Sasha's child? The idea felt absurd, yet increasingly plausible, and Willow's mind reeled with possibilities. Willow was suddenly caught between the truth she believed and the secrets swirling just beyond her reach. Drew's connection to Sasha, Sasha's bond with Danny, and Jason's reappearance all collided into a storm of confusion. If there had been a deception, especially one involving Jason and a child, what would it mean for everyone involved? Willow's trust in Drew teetered on the edge, and her confusion wasn't just about a potential betrayal. It was about the fear that the people closest to her might be hiding life-altering truths. As her world shifted once again, she was left wondering whether to protect the truth, or let it shatter everything. Finally, now that Jocelyn has returned to Port Charles, the weight of her new alliance with the WSB begins to press more heavily on her shoulders. What she once thought would be a covert, manageable mission quickly reveals itself to be anything but discreet. Jason, ever the vigilant observer, picks up on the subtle shifts in Jocelyn's demeanor and becomes increasingly suspicious. His protective instincts flare, not only because of his past connection with Jocelyn and her family but because he senses she's involved in something dangerous, something she's unwilling to share. The tension between them simmers quietly, as Jason watches her with growing concern. Vaughn steps back into the picture, providing Jocelyn with more explicit details about the high-stakes mission ahead. Though trained and determined, Jocelyn realizes that this assignment will push her far beyond anything she's faced before. Vaughn's briefing hints at deep-cover deception, possible exposure, and a target whose reach extends into powerful corners of international networks. As the days draw closer to the mission, Jocelyn begins to understand the cost of her secrecy, not only the danger to herself, but the strain it places on her relationships. Her double life becomes harder to mask, especially under Jason's watchful eye. Meanwhile, Jason shifts focus between his growing doubts about Jocelyn and his protective watch over Carly. Though he makes no effort to interfere in Carly's current connection with Brennan, his instincts won't allow him to step aside entirely. The shadows around Brennan grow thicker, and Jason quietly inserts himself into key situations, ready to act the moment something feels off. His calm but calculated presence is both a shield and a warning, a sign that even as others move on, Jason remains tethered to those he loves, whether they want his protection or not. Back on the domestic front, Christina's guilt is becoming impossible to ignore. Despite her efforts to maintain a composed exterior, her avoidance and emotional outbursts begin to chip away at Molly's trust. Molly, already observant and emotionally intuitive, starts to suspect that something significant is weighing on her sister. The warmth between them begins to cool, replaced by unease and unspoken questions. Christina's anxiety only deepens as Ava continues to manipulate the situation, quietly tightening the pressure with veiled threats and strategic distance. As secrets fester and guilt deepens, the rift between the sisters threatens to become a chasm, and Christina may find herself running out of time to fix what's already begun to break.